If you'd asked us a few months ago to pick one smartphone which had the absolute best cameras, then the iPhone 11 Pro would have been an easy recommendation. We've already seen some of the great things the cameras of the recently launched Galaxy S20 Plus are capable of in our full review, but does this phone capture better images and video than the iPhone 11 Pro? It's time to find out. Now before we go ahead, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and also hit that bell icon so you're the first to know whenever we have a new video. First, let's take a look at the rear camera specs of the Galaxy S20 Plus. Now let's take a look at the rear camera specs of the iPhone 11 Pro. Now with this out of the way, it's time to head to the test to see which phone does a better job. In our first test, we have a landscape shot of a nearby building. Now both smartphones capture excellent details of the building and the trees in the foreground. However, we do prefer the shot taken with the iPhone 11 Pro simply because the exposure is more balanced and colors are more natural. The shot from the Galaxy S20 Plus is brighter, but the texture on the building surface is blown out and the sky is a little unnaturally blue. It looks striking, no doubt, but it's not the most accurate. In our second shot, we got nearly identical looking images from both phones. Exposure was once again well balanced and there was plenty of details in objects both near and far. Samsung does bump up the colors very slightly and the shadows are also lifted, which makes for a more vivid result compared to what the 11 Pro delivers. However, as a result, the blacks are crushed a little, displaying slightly less detail than what the iPhone is capable of. In low light, the Samsung Galaxy S20 Plus was unable to reproduce very good colors. However, switching to night mode improved things dramatically. Colors were noticeably better and we could see a lot more detail in objects in the shadows. However, textures on smaller objects such as the leaves looked a bit worse. The iPhone 11 Pro automatically activates night mode when it detects low light and the results are fantastic. Comparing its output with the night mode shot with the Galaxy S20 Plus, the 11 Pro managed more realistic colors on the leaves and trees, and even finer textures were better defined. For landscapes, we'd pick the iPhone 11 Pro as the overall winner. Switching to much smaller objects and shooting under harsh sunlight, we see that the 11 Pro balanced the exposures very well. Now not only that, it even managed to retain the right shade of red on the flowers and delivered a pleasing depth effect for the background. The Galaxy S20 Plus struggled with exposure a bit and didn't manage to meter the white balance very well. As a result, the flowers took on an orange hue from the sunlight, which wasn't accurate. It did deliver a slightly stronger depth effect though compared to the 11 Pro. Our second subject was also photographed at around the same time of day but under the cover of trees, so the light was less harsh. The iPhone 11 Pro once again produced a more neutral color tone and a more accurate rendition of the pink shade of the flowers. If you look closer, it even managed slightly better textures than the Galaxy S20 Plus. Samsung's photo wasn't far behind with a slightly warmer color tone. Now low light is where the Galaxy S20 Plus earns back some points. In our first shot of some more flowers, both phones delivered equally well exposed and detailed images. However, with a tighter crop, we can see that the Galaxy S20 Plus produced better details. Even in our second shot, it appeared as though the 11 Pro has the better image at first glance, since a lot of the elements were in focus. However, the S20 Plus did sneak past the iPhone with a slightly softer and more realistic looking shot. For close-ups, it's a tie between both as we found the 11 Pro to be more consistent during the day, while the Galaxy S20 Plus offered better details in low light. Now both phones let you simulate the effect of having a large aperture lens of a DSLR. On the iPhone, it's called Portrait mode, while Samsung calls it Live Focus. When shooting people, it's a close call between the iPhone 11 Pro and the Galaxy S20 Plus. Both phones produce excellent details and skin tones. However, upon closer inspection, we found that it's the Galaxy S20 Plus that gave us the better picture of the two. When zoomed in, you'll notice that the details on our subject's face were better and skin tones also looked a bit more natural. Using the telephoto cameras on objects, once again both phones captured striking photos with very good edge detection. It's a little hard to pick a sure winner here, so we'll call this one a tie. In low light, the iPhone 11 Pro messed up the shot pretty badly by not being able to blur out the right objects. Samsung did a commendable job here, managing to correctly blur out even the small gaps between the leaves and the flowers. Overall, we'd give this round to the Galaxy S20 Plus. First, let's look at the front camera specs for the Galaxy S20 Plus. Now let's take a look at the selfie camera specs for the iPhone 11 Pro. In our first outdoor test during the day, the iPhone 11 Pro straight up has the better image. Skin tones are spot on and the overall tone looks more pleasing. Samsung manages good details too, but the skin tones look a bit pale and colors are a bit muted. Both phones do a good job of cropping out the background properly, but once again we prefer the skin tones of the 11 Pro to the Galaxy S20 Plus. In low light, the iPhone manages more natural skin tones, but details weren't great and there was some visible noise in the background objects. The Galaxy S20 Plus captured a cleaner image, but details were once again strictly average. Now, Samsung does have a secret weapon though, which is night mode for the selfie camera. You'll have to stay still for a bit longer, but the wait is totally worth it, as details and colors are much better. Once again, the results are split between the two. We do prefer the iPhone 11 Pro for daytime selfies, but night mode makes a world of a difference when taking selfies with the Galaxy S20 Plus. In our first test, it's the 11 Pro which managed a slightly better exposure on the building in front of us compared to the S20 Plus. In our second test, it's another close call between the two phones, but just like the same shot we took with the phone's primary cameras, the Galaxy S20 Plus tends to lift the shadows a bit more for a more dramatic look. At night, the iPhone 11 Pro's wide-angle camera isn't of much use unless you have ample light around. Night mode does not work with the wide-angle camera on the 11 Pro. On the other hand, even in the standard mode, the S20 Plus produced a slightly brighter image than the iPhone, and things got dramatically better with night mode on. Overall, we would pick the wide-angle camera of the Galaxy S20 Plus as the winner for its competent daylight performance and superior low-light capability. Now for the fun part, the zoom test. We've already tested the zoom capabilities of the Galaxy S20 Plus in our full review, and the short verdict is that it's pretty impressive. Now, Apple boasts of a 2x optical zoom camera, while Samsung claims to deliver a 3x hybrid optical zoom. We begin with a 2x optical zoom shot. Now at this level, both sensors can deliver excellent detail and colors, and exposures are handled very well. The iPhone 11 Pro adds a slightly warm tinge to the photos, but other than this, both are equally good. Let's now jump to the 10x magnification, which is the highest zoom possible on the iPhone 11 Pro. With ample natural light, the iPhone managed to produce decent details, although texture quality was average and some of the edges of the buildings had noticeable distortion. Now, looking at the photo taken with the S20 Plus, we see a massive difference in quality. Details and textures on objects are a lot clearer, there's no edge distortion, and colors are also a lot more vivid. Now with the S20 Plus, you can zoom in further to 20x and also up to 30x, but at these levels, smaller objects aren't exactly recognizable and overall quality degrades quite a bit to a point where you won't really want to share these shots with anyone. It's cool that you can do this, but it might not be too useful. Now we did one more daytime test, and this time of a much closer subject. Focus wasn't very sharp in the iPhone 11 Pro's shot, whereas the Galaxy S20 Plus applied a bit of sharpening to make the flowers stand out. At 10x zoom, the iPhone 11 Pro captured a flat-looking image with relatively weak texture details. The S20 Plus, on the other hand, captured an amazing shot with plenty of details, rich colors, and no grain. You can really see Samsung's AI algorithms at work here, as the photo actually looked better than the shot taken even at 3x zoom. If you're shooting in very low light, then both these phones will zoom in digitally using the primary cameras rather than the optical zoom cameras in order to preserve quality. At 2x zoom, the iPhone 11 Pro still does a better job with colors, details, and noise. Night mode works here too, since the primary camera is in use. Samsung's night mode is effective compared to shooting in the standard mode, but the colors and details aren't as good as what the 11 Pro manages. Now at 10x zoom, the iPhone 11 Pro surprised us with decent details even though the picture quality was below average. The Galaxy S20 Plus, on the other hand, did a pretty poor job of resolving any detail, as its output was heavily denoised, flattening out the textures of most objects. However, with night mode active, it was a completely different story. Details and textures were massively improved, making the photo actually usable. When it comes to zoom, the Galaxy S20 Plus is the clear leader here. iPhones have long been the gold standard when it came to smartphone videography, but last year we found that the Galaxy Note 10 Plus came pretty close to its level. And with the Galaxy S20 Plus, that gap has narrowed even more. When recording 4K videos under good light, footage from both phones was very similar, displaying very good details and colors. The iPhone 11 Pro records slightly louder audio, but focusing was equally quick and on point with both phones, even when we panned around. Stabilization at this resolution was also handled beautifully, and both the S20 Plus and the 11 Pro let you switch between the wide-angle and telephoto sensors while recording. The Galaxy S20 Plus has a neat party trick, which is shooting 8K video. This is impressive, but we are not quite convinced that it's entirely useful, at least right now. The frame rate is still limited to 24 FPS at this resolution, and the frame is also heavily cropped. Now both phones can shoot slow motion video at up to 240 FPS. The Galaxy S20 Plus can also shoot at 960 FPS, but for a very limited time. The quality is decent at 240 FPS on both phones, but not so much at 960 FPS. The selfie cameras shoot crisp 4K footage too, making these phones great for vlogging. Audio quality is very good even if you don't use an external microphone, and the video is stabilized well, which is a bonus. In low light, the Galaxy S20 Plus surprised us as it managed cleaner footage and better colors. We noticed some mild distortion when moving about, but not too much. Footage taken with the iPhone 11 Pro was good, but a bit grainy and colors weren't as vivid. The wide-angle cameras of both phones shoot much darker and grainier footage, but even here the S20 Plus was a smidge better. Samsung has done well this time, and overall, considering the option of 8K and all the other video modes, we feel the Galaxy S20 Plus is the better option for video. It's unsurprising that the iPhone 11 Pro has aged well and can still hold its own against Android flagships of early 2020, but we're happy to see that it finally has some stiff competition when it comes to cameras. The Galaxy S20 Plus easily goes toe-to-toe with it and in many cases performs even better. The fact that Samsung's phone is a lot more affordable too is the cherry on top. Of course, it isn't entirely perfect. Photos did have some issues with white balance and exposure, especially when shooting under harsh light, and skin tones in selfies were generally on the paler side. However, when it comes to zoom, the Galaxy S20 Plus absolutely destroys the iPhone 11 Pro. Even in areas such as video, where Samsung has long faltered, is now on par with the iPhone. Thanks for watching, and for all things tech, log on to gadgets360.com.